So welcome to another conversation in the series of Challengers and Icons, and today I'm speaking to Dave Kyrejko, who is the co-founder of the City Foundry in Brooklyn, a research and design group that focuses on improving small-scale manufacturing processes through the blending of science and art. Though the Foundry has many projects under its roof, including a letterpress, a full machine shop and a working lab, the most impressive project yet is certainly Industry City Distillery. And combining the shared interest and knowledge of the founders, Industry City Distillery's mission is to pursue better craft spirits through science. Now, Industry Standard Vodka, their baby, is a unique sugar beet vodka that boasts a flavor profile as unique as the process that is used to make it. And it's not just the vodka that is handcrafted. Industry City Distillery built their bespoke distillery from the ground up and have created a totally unique fermentation and distillation process using scientific rather than commercial equipment. Dave's inspiration to start a distillery was actually a byproduct of a happy accident. By using a scientific method of fermentation instead of the more traditional approach, Dave inadvertently found a more efficient way to make a spirit that was far superior to the competition. In 2011, Dave decided to turn his happy accident into a business and assembled an unlikely team from across the country, 5 utility guys, all younger than 30, all fascinated with improving processes, and all with resumes totally void of any distilling experience. Industry City Distillery is now the largest vodka distiller in New York City, and they plan to make up to at least 4,000 bottles of its industry standard vodka every month, and hopes to soon become the city's largest craft distillery. And if that wasn't enough, the team was recognized on Forbes' 30 Under 30 list in 2013. Dave, welcome to Challengers and Icons.
Thanks so much.
From working on sustainable aquariums, ocean sailboats, and creating a vodka and Industry City Distillery, yours is a very diverse and interesting story. Specifically, your choice to combine science with art and then craft to create something totally unique. Can you tell us what the challenge was to combine all of these different industries together and a bit more of your story?
Well, I have an art background. I went to Cooper Union, studied fine art, but I always had a passion for both the mechanical world and the biological world. And keeping an eye on efficiency and sustainability, a lot of my work, even as an artist, had to do with both those worlds combined. So combining those two really was, at that time, second nature. But making it into a larger project, that's where it got interesting. So the idea behind the City Foundry was to bring together people of various backgrounds that had a like-minded goal and have them work on larger projects rather than just small, concise projects. And the distillery was a great way to really put all that to the test, because you need pretty much every scientific discipline in distillation. You need biology, you need physics, you need chemistry, but you need to make everything look good, not just your bottle. But we like our welds here, and making a really beautiful sanitary stainless steel weld, that takes some talent. So you need to find that talent and bring that to a project. One
of the things that we always say is that no matter what the category, it's always important to have a clear brand vision. That said, you guys have succeeded with, and I quote, a tasty application of our collective curiosities and interests. Now, it's obvious that one of the things that makes Industry City Distillery successful is this eclectic combination. So when it comes to your business success, is it merely an artful balance of all your talents and interests in the way that you were describing just now, or is there more to it?
Well, it's a bit of both. You bring together the right people to not only augment your abilities, but to bring in abilities you don't have. And in the case of putting together the distillery, there are certain aspects that you require. Those include marketing and sales and distribution, and your machinist shouldn't do that. Your biologist shouldn't do that. If they want to help, that's great. but being able to construct a story, in our case, that we make these incredibly intricate machines to make a vodka. We make the machine specifically for that vodka. And then to take that story and convey that accurately to not so much the consumer, but just convey it, period. That is a skill, and we've been honing that and developing that. And believe it or not, your machinist does become part of it, and your biologist does become part of it. And they, lo and behold, start writing copy of their own, and it just makes the information that much richer.
Quite a few of the people that I've spoken to in this series, the challengers who are entrepreneurs, they're kind of go-it-alone agents, and in a way, you're changing the perception that successful challengers and entrepreneurs are go-it-alone kind of people. So how do you work as a team? To expand a little bit more on that, and how does this set you apart from other companies?
With great difficulty. We are a group of lone wolves, if you will, and to bring everybody together in one pack required a project that everybody was interested in. And it really does come down to that. People aren't here for the paycheck. They're here because they want to see cool shit happen. So you bring somebody that, like I myself have almost always worked by myself. Working with a team has been a learning experience, and it's been a very rewarding one. But there's always the growing pains. There's always working with people that might have an idea of what you do, and you have to get over your expertise. You have to open up to other possibilities and work with that person as opposed to shutting them down. Mm.
And benefit from the fruits of that collaborative.
Absolutely.
Kind of, yeah.
If it gets really boring if all you do is talk on one side. Mm. If you have a dialogue, you're going to have a better result.
Now, I want to talk about a subject which is dear to my heart, and which is change. Mm-hmm. In a way, what you are doing is all about change, and it's really kind of, I think, symptomatic of the way things are going in industry and society and brands and art, and it's a great manifestation of all of that. But change is something that people resist, and you actually say at Industry City Distillery, nothing here is safe from change. So it's the opposite that we may find sort of entrenched in, say, corporations. And I've been told that some of your distilling processes have been redesigned a dozen or more times.
It's being generous.
Okay, so give us your thoughts on this type of experimentation. What would you say to people who fear change?
Too bad. Really, you have to constantly change, especially in our case, the distillation world. It has a certain history and it has a certain reputation, and there is a way that you do things. But the truth is that distillation is possibly man's oldest technology, especially making spirits might be man's oldest scientific process. And we've learned a lot, not in the past 2,000 years, but in the past 50 years about distillation. And when it comes down to it, it's not about how old your copper pot still is, it's about the understanding of what it does. So if you can learn from people in different fields, not just your whiskey distiller, but your chemical engineer, and if you can learn that, oh, that's not alcohol, that's called an ester. Oh, the ester is what makes flavors? The alcohol doesn't make flavors? Okay, so how do I harness esters? Where do they come from? And that spawns an entirely different conversation. So, okay, now if I want to focus on esters, does my distillation do that? No, my fermentation does that. Well, I better go talk to a biologist. I better start learning about what fermentation does. And all of this spawns new ideas, and you discover one sort of startling thing. It might not exist. That process that you discovered that you want to do, you can't do it because the machines don't exist to accomplish it. So we built this place so that we can embrace change fully. We can pivot on a dime. Those beautiful welds I was talking about, if we have to cut them apart, we're going to cut them apart. Yeah, you spent 14 hours building that piece of equipment, but it doesn't work the right way. We could also just force it to work, or we could just say, no, we can do that better, and we're not going to just settle for it sort of working.
Mm. And it's, to me, it comes across as an incredible commitment to being open to new ideas, which you've just been mentioning. You know, the power of science and the commitment to sort of, you know, build these things from the ground up. And it's this kind of almost continual state of R&D and innovation that you're imposing on yourself. You know, how can it be better? And combining all of those elements to create a great tasting vodka. Your outreach guru, Peter Simon, is quoted as saying, it's kind of nice being the outsider because you aren't stuck in any of the dogma around the industry. Now, we've talked this issue a lot through with our interviewees in the past, concluding that it's often easier for small companies to push ideas through without the red tape of large corporations. What are your thoughts on this? Does this affect the way you plan to grow and expand, for example?
Sure. Our R&D position on things is that nothing is sacred. Nothing is, again, safe from change. And that really, that's in every bit of what we do. And when it comes to us expanding, one of the reasons that, or one of the things that we draw great inspiration from is our location. The urban location is less than ideal for starting a distillery, but it provides huge inspiration. Energy is very expensive, space is at a premium, so for us to make an actual production environment in an urban setting, we had to think entirely differently. Mm. And in this case, in the creation of these different distillation equipment pieces and our immobilized cell bioreactor fermentation system especially, saves a huge amount of energy and a huge amount of space, and is not only sustainable, but extensible. If we want to grow a much larger business, much larger amount of production, we don't need any more space. We just need to build more of it.
I mean, that's pretty inspirational, and I think that many a big corporation could learn something by looking at what you guys are doing, because in a way you're paving the way for scaling up, but kind of with far more efficiency, embedded right at the kind of the inception of your brand. And you know, from a consumer point of view, when they interact with the product, there's clearly a sort of a perception that you are a craft product, and not just a perception, a reality. But the interesting thing in all of this is that whereas maybe other craft products aren't so tech kind of biased, you are kind of like the opposite of that. You embrace technology in terms of what you're doing. So let's just talk about technology in amongst all of this. As industry, city, distillery grows and technology inevitably develops, how do you see technology continuing to impact on the business? And what would you like to see happen in your ideal world?
Well, really, we embrace technology fully. And like as you mentioned, the craft distillation world is very much, I wouldn't say that it's against technology, but there's a certain look and feel that most of them adopt, the copper pot still ideal. And that's one way to do it. But for us to create the product that we wanted to, that would have been impossible. The traditional copper pot still just doesn't have the separation capacity that would be required to make our product. So it wasn't even a matter of, well, that's an idea, that's an option. It just wasn't an option. So from the get-go, we had looked at what was available on the technological forefront, and we're constantly improving, constantly. We are constantly looking at new materials. We love our exotic materials. We have a very nerdy exotic materials bin that I just kind of love pawing through. And if there is a better way to do something, we'll do it. It has to make sense, though. We're not going to go out of our way to incorporate something that will have minimal return. What we do is we see what people have done around us, people have done before us, what new technologies are coming out, and how they've performed for other industries. So by looking, and I feel this is really important to look outside of the craft distillation world, to look at what some of our sort of our comrades in arms in the scientific and the industrial sort of industries are doing as a way of informing us what our next moves could be. And whether it be distillation techniques, construction, control systems, automation, all of these things don't necessarily make for they make for a better product. Some people might feel that adding machines like technology and automation might removing some of the soul of the spirit, or that us having a still that's capable of incredibly high separation removes too much. To that I say we remove everything, and then we only put back what we want. So it's a very different process than a traditional distillation method, and technology only improves that.
Yeah, and what I like is the fact that you can very clearly feel, the people and the presence behind the vodka, which you guys are embracing the technology to perfect something that is really drinkable and beautiful, and that made by hand kind of aspect of it is being expressed through the passion and the interest to use the technology and make the things that makes the stills and all of the kind of the machinery they use to create the vodka. And yet in amongst this wonderful kind of distillery that we've got here, there's a letterpress machine, sort of like, which is just humming away and doing what it does when you want it to. And that nice blend of old and new technology is clearly present in your brand identity, for example, the letterpress. And quite often I see a fake kind of letterpress look, but I see it right here, and in amongst all of the kind of the pipes and tubes and glassware that you've got that are kind of going into the vodka. We've got letterpress and ink and kind of, so there's a nice blend of old and new taking place, and that must be quite an inspirational aspect of the way you're building the identity of your brand.
It absolutely is. As I mentioned, distillation is incredibly old. The technology is incredibly old. And by looking at the past, for instance, letterpress, we don't just letterpress for the sake of letterpressing. Letterpressing was a very efficient way for us to do very small runs of labels and lettering and business cards and things like that, pamphlets, with a very high quality result. We also do silk screening. We do a lot of things by hand, not necessarily because we want to do them by hand, it's just a better way of doing it for this specific purpose. Or in the case of distillation, while we use all of this automation and all these machines to make the actual product, all of it is tasted individually by hand. And our distillation process is very different. We don't have a heads, hearts, and tails system that is so typical in distillation. We separate out into 40 separate cuts, and so that's a lot of tasting. But what you'll find is that with a still with as much separation capacity as ours, each one of those bottles is going to have a unique flavor. And yes, we could buy ourselves a gas chromatograph, and we could go full off mechanical, completely scientific. But we prefer to use good old Mark I eyeball. You're always going to have this amazing machine called the human palate, the human sense, and all of its receptors. And that's what determines that the vodka's good. It's that you have the combination of the technological and the human element together. Similar to, we'll get our bottles blown for us. We're not going to make our own glass bottles, but we'll absolutely letterpress the labels. Yeah,
and if that response isn't a lesson in art and science, kind of like blending together, I don't know what is. And it's great to see
all in one bottle.
All in one bottle. Yeah. So it's often supposed that if you break the rules, just to break the rules, you can break your brand along the way. That's, I guess, recklessness. Industry City Distillery's unique positioning as a drinkable vodka, to be enjoyed like a whiskey or a rye, changes the way that you market your product and changes the way that the range of your competitors, the way that you're seen in amongst that. Was a straight up vodka your goal when you started? How are you communicating this point of difference to people?
Well, a lot of people ask us why vodka. Whiskey is the thing. Why aren't you guys making whiskey? The answer is really vodka's hard to make. You can't put it in a barrel. You can't age it. It can't be that, oh, this was a particularly strong batch. It was different. Vodka is an entirely naked spirit. And for us to want to really put our abilities to the test here, in terms of design and engineering and distillation prowess, making a completely naked spirit that has to stand by itself, that was the goal. And to make a vodka that could be enjoyed by itself, and as we like to drink it at room temperature even, well, that's a hell of a challenge. And that was really the goal. I prefer to drink my vodka with food. I'm not going to mix it with cranberry juice. That said, it makes an amazing vodka soda, amazing vodka cranberry. It makes a very deadly Bloody Mary, absolutely deadly Bloody Mary. But really, if you make good vodka, I'm not going to market it as a exclusively sipping vodka. You should enjoy it as you enjoy it. The fact that you can enjoy it as a sipping vodka, that's a different perspective.
Okay. I often have said that if all basic lessons around branding, brand identity, and product can be learned by just looking at the vodka category. There are so many brands out there, and so many identities, and so many different ways of expressing something that is essentially a neutral spirit. So, essentially it is these stories, and it's the commitment to the craft of making it in the way that this interview is clearly expressed that makes all the difference, and I think you're doing a fantastic job. So I just wanted to kind of talk about sort of where we're going, where you guys are going, because you're in your infancy. We've read that your long-term plans include the rollout of maybe a natural cleaning chemical made from the distillery's byproduct. Well, that's sustainable, why not? And perfecting, runs on alcohol, and also because of the excess of carbon dioxide that you now produce, using it to power a greenhouse for vegetables, for example. Lots of interesting kind of ideas.
Sure, sure.
So, like a true challenger brand, you're challenging the market, you're challenging yourselves. What's next for you guys, and where can we expect to see Industry City Distillery or the Foundry go?
Well, the first thing to do is to move us into that production level. That moves us out of just, well, it's a new craft distillery, we'll see how they do, into an established company. So that means not producing 1,200 to 1,700 bottles a month, but producing 4,000 bottles a month and beyond. And from there, you have a great base to build some of the more interesting projects on top of, and that's the City Foundry. So the City Foundry would be involved in developing things like CO2-powered greenhouses, which coincidentally is the happy accident that started this. And the cleaning agent that you mentioned, it's really just the very tiny portion of our process that is less than tasty. And we use it exclusively right now in the shop and the lab. And I don't know, we like it so much we might not market it. We really like it as Zach loves it in the shop as degreaser, and I love it as sterilizer in the lab. So.
Okay. Well, I think it's early days, but I know that you're catching the eye of many a competitor at the moment, and it's inspirational to be here and walk around the workshop and the lab, and I've just seen the distillation process. It's awesome stuff, and I wish you the best of luck with it, and I know you're going to be a big success. So keep going with this eclectic mix of lone wolves, and I'm sure we'll see great success for Industry Standard Vodka and Industry City Distillery and the Foundry. So congratulations and good luck.
Yeah.
My pleasure.